Off, you turned it on.
I know we turned mine on too.
Got some,
Without a warning.
do you have something to do tonight, Adam? Do you have something to do tonight or something?
We are playing the Flyers.
Yeah. Oh, we're playing the Flyers.
Al has something to
Philly
do.
fans in the audience.
All right, we'll go ahead if it's all right. Adam wants to start the meeting, so. For Adam, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. Welcome to the Oldsmar City Council meeting of February 19th, 2019. If you'll please rise for our invocation and our pledge that will be led by our city attorney, Mr. Tom Trask.
Our Heavenly Father, we come humbly before you to ask your divine guidance and help in our deliberations this evening. Bless the members of this council and the citizens that are present. We pray that our work this evening will find favor in your sight. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, welcome. Our first item on tonight's agenda is our Citizens Open Forum. We only have a couple of rules that you keep it to no more than 5 minutes. You state your name and address clearly for the record. And there are no public hearings, so you can address anything on tonight's agenda at this time. This side of the room. Nope, this side of the room. Yep. Oh. You've got matching shirts, we'll let you go.
Hello, I'm Jan Chaffee, 3801 Shore Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, Oldsmar, Florida.
And I'm Brian Chaffee, same address. We live together.
Why you wear the same shirt?
Did you drive together? Yeah.
2019 Relay for Life's coming up, April 12th. We're here just to thank the council and the city for their support every year. We have a couple of plaques in here as gifts to you to hang in City Hall, hopefully. There's one dated 2017. It got lost in the shuffle somewhere, but we just wanted to present this to you tonight.
Perfect.
And should we give this to Ann?
Yep, that'd be
Okay.
great.
And then Mr. Chaffee has some additional words.
Just a little bit more. City of Oldsmar has been enormously faithful and generous to Relay for Life over the years. And in fact, this year, the City Council is represented with a track marker. And that means a donation was made thanks to the generosity of Vice Mayor Seidel in honor of the whole council. So what we'd like to ask is if you would be willing to challenge some of your counterparts on the other North Pinellas city councils to come out and join Relay for Life, to participate and to be as active as you have been. The Relay for Life used to be only Oldsmar. About 5 years ago, it included Safety Harbor, and 2 years ago, we wrapped in Palm Harbor and Tarpon Springs. Those folks aren't showing up, you guys are. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll try and reach out to them.
Thank you.
Yep. Andrew?
Andrew Knapp, 314 Vista Cruiser Lane. Some of the residents from Hayes Park Village have some concerns with the property that the city owns across the street on Hayes Park there, which is kind of behind the Municipal Services Building. Mostly from the vehicles that are there right now, so I was hoping maybe the city manager could comment if and when those might be removed, because it's more or less an eyesore for the people that are living in the two-story buildings there and have to face out at it. So,
We're parking
any comment?
there?
I was unprepared to be defending it.
Okay.
I wasn't necessarily sure that we needed to do anything urgently, but I'll take a look at it and
Okay.
I'll get back to you directly to try to work something out. I'm not totally sure I know what you mean. You said cars are back there?
There's like, it may have been something that was from the fire department when they worked on, practicing extractions and stuff. It looks like junk cars, like graffiti and all kinds of stuff over it, I think.
Doing some education training with the new education tool. We have one shift left to do that, and then they'll be removed.
Okay. There's the answer.
Oh, you did.
That way I can relay it back to everybody else in the neighborhood. So.
And could you state your address again? Just kidding. No, I'm kidding, for the record, so they know.
Thank you.
You know which house is yours. Come on, Andrew, you gotta be quicker than that. You know me.
Somebody he was volunteering his car, so he should.
Yeah.
Keep your garage locked.
Did somebody say somebody was living in a house, two-story house? Or did I just hear that because she was mumbling over here?
Well, they live in two-story houses over there.
He was
Yeah.
saying that they.
I know they do, but who's parking on the Do we know who's parking out there?
Were you?
Yeah, I was here. But nobody has really said who's parking out there.
It was the fire
blame
department
Jason
doing
and
some
them.
Why
testing.
was the parking?
They're doing testing.
Don't you have a parking place in front of your place?
They were doing testing or
They
equipment.
prefer to annoy
Extraction.
Andrew.
Which is quite fun.
About our fire department?
Lost control. Nobody else is talking. I'm just kidding. Anybody
Except
else
for
would like to address the council? Good. Man. Do a quick mayor's minute, some upcoming events, and some recaps. USA BMX Gator Nationals, excited about this. The teams have started rolling in. I don't know German, but I believe that's what they were talking yesterday at the top of the hill. That starts Friday the 22nd through Sunday the 24th at the Oldsmar Sports Complex. It's an annual BMX event hosted by Oldsmar BMX Track. This year is a UCI Challenge Class World Championship qualifier for the U.S. riders. So we should have, I would say, a pretty full field, Chip, you think? Absolutely. Some probably in the past we've had former Olympians. Matter of fact, Mariana Pajon from Colombia and Connor Fields from the United States won the Gator Nationals in 2016. And subsequently, we went on to Rio de Janeiro and won the gold medal. So pretty cool that some of these high-class riders come right through here. And it's great because they interact with the kids of all ages out there. They're approachable and everything. You can also look forward to a few TV interviews at the track that we're going to be doing, hopefully with Fox 13, working out the details on that to promote it. Also free admission. And parking is $10 for the day or $25 for the weekend. You could always do like Councilmember Saraki and ride your bike over there and then go in free. Annual pancake breakfast is this Saturday, February 23rd, 8 to 11 at Gull Air Village. Clubhouse for $5. You can enjoy pancakes, sausage, orange juice, and coffee to benefit Oldsmar Cares. Don't forget Election Day. Our municipal elections are being held on Tuesday, March 12th. Please make sure your vote counts. There are 2 council seats and an economic development referendum on the ballot this year. Good luck and to the candidates. Also, city council reception. Join us on Tuesday, March 19th, beginning at 5:45 for a swearing-in ceremony, followed by an outgoing council recognition and reception prior to the 7 o'clock council meeting. A couple of recaps. Oldsmar Cares Gala. Congratulations to Oldsmar Cares on their successful annual wine and food gala. I don't know exactly how much they raised, but I believe it was a ton of money. Also, First Responders Appreciation Dinner. This was great. This was started years ago by John Maroney, and we continued it this past Saturday. The annual First Responders Appreciation Dinner created for the passing of John Maroney. The event raised $120,000 for our community, and the John Maroney Legacy Foundation was recently formed to continue with John's vision and generosity in saluting Pinellas County's finest and bravest. You can visit maroneyfoundation.org to see how you can help and keep his legacy alive. His wife was there, his son was there, and they're excited about keeping his legacy going. Also, I was provided this downstairs at the Historical Society. The Women's Club of Oldsmar presents Super Party. It's not a Super Bowl, it is soup you eat. Sunday, March 3rd, 2019, 11 to 2, State Street Center, which is right next door. Enjoy, I think she said 12?
14.
14 different soups. Dan is probably going to eat them all. Enjoy many varieties of homemade soup for $5 per person. Pay cash at the door. All money raised supports the Women's Club of Oldsmar. That wraps up the Mayor's Minute. We'll move on to the next item, which is the awards and recognition, and I believe that's Councilmember Beaverland with the assistance of our city manager. Assistant.
Doesn't seem like these lights are so bright right
They are
now.
kind of bright tonight. It's probably Adam doing it on purpose.
Yeah, wow. Yes. Maybe we can ask Adam to turn it down a little bit.
I'm going blind.
Are these lights on super bright, Adam? Sleep.
Time you can
Lower
make the
down?
city manager work. He can help us.
You won't be seen.
Are you ready, city manager?
Yes, sir.
We don't put our back to the audience, city manager.
I'm having a rough night here already.
I've known you at the fire department's doing, I'm trying to get the right notes.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. I don't usually read from a script. I have a hard time reading from a script, but I'm going to try to follow my script tonight. I've said many times that all the council does is sit up there and raise their hand and vote, and they go home, and then the city employees make us look good. Well, that's half true, and it's sort of said in jest. The city council does raise their hands and vote. And most of the time, they do that to make good votes for the city of Oldsmar. Now, if they don't agree with me and they vote against me, that's a little something different, but we'll talk about that later whenever I have to scream at them. But it is true. The city employees are the face of this city. They don't see the city council only when we sit up here, we go on a parade, or we do something like that. But the city employees are out there all the time. You are the face of the city. And they do make us look good a lot of the times. They really do. By their work ethic and by their dedication. And this award is a way for the council to recognize these employees for their dedication, for their professionalism every day that they are out there in the public. I want to use one example where this dedication was observed in Gullar Village. Before I do, I have to thank a couple people for this. I got a phone call because of a problem. I have gotten many phone calls with a problem in Gullar Village. And I went out there and I looked at the problem, and it was major. And so I called a couple of people, and Daniel was one of them. Come out here and help me solve this problem, Daniel, because all I am is a city. I sit up here as a council member, and I can't solve problems, but y'all can. And Daniel tried to solve the problem, and he ran into a roadblock. This particular ditch or swale belonged to St. Petersburg because they had a large water line going through it. And Daniel tried and tried and tried, and St. Petersburg would not cooperate. They first say it's not ours. Well, maybe ours. So I went to the city manager. And the city manager said, I'll come out and look at it. He said, well, if St. Petersburg won't help us control this problem, the city of Oldsmar will. One time, Gullar was told one time, after this you'll solve it yourself. This particular ditch, was it clogged?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was clogged with trees and bushes and whatever else there was. I even afraid to go near it. I thought a monkey would jump out at me. This thing was clogged deep. How deep was it, Daniel? 20 feet, 30 feet? It was horrible. So, it was major, it was complex, it was backing up the water on people's property. And guess what? These guys came out and they solved that problem. I'd go out there, and the city manager was out there, and a whole bunch of Gullar Village people were out there watching their professionalism, which we really appreciate. And they cut trees down that was in the middle. They cut bushes down and cleaned that whole thing up one time. And these guys did an incredible job. They really did. And I want to thank Daniel and Al for their incredible help. It would never have been done without them. We couldn't take major equipment out there. They had to do it all by hand. And then they had to work around all the people that was watching them. And you all did a professional job. There was a lot of comments out there, and they were all positive about, and this was on Trout Lane, by the way. And while they're doing this, this was one time. There's 365 days in most years, and then another year we'll have 366. And I don't know which year that'll be. I guess they call it leap year or something. But these guys are out there not only doing that, but during the work week, they're doing a lot of multiple things. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Again, you represent us up here because you are the face of the people. We're not the face of the people. They vote us in and vote us out. But you're there for 365 days a year. And many times you do make us look good. And we thank you for that. Now, these guys are the Streets and Stormwater Division. If you have a stormwater problem, you call this guy or Felicia, and then they'll come back and get these guys. See, the city manager and the assistant city manager, Felicia, they won't go out there and fix the drainage problem, but these guys will. And we thank you. And tonight, it is a privilege for the city council to give these guys the award of recognition by the city council.
And to further just affirm Councilmember Viveland's point, we use the Gull Air project as an example, but I can promise you, and most of you have seen this many, many times, these people are what I like to refer to as the hardest working people we have, because they're always in a ditch or in a road or mowing something, and it's 95-degree heat, and they never complain. They show up to work. They have great attendance records. They're absolutely a tribute, and I wish we could give them more recognition, but I think this is a great idea to just show them how much we appreciate them. So for the people, can I read the list of everybody? We want to recognize everybody. Not everybody was here to make it. But I'd like to recognize first the Streets and Stormwater Supervisor, Mike Jaser, who snuck in the back when nobody was looking. Michael, you want to come up?
I've seen this guy many years.
Stay here if you would, brother. All right, Kyle Cantner. Kyle? Thanks, man.
I've seen this guy a few years too.
Yeah, you notice him.
I noticed the head on these guys.
Mike Nemes. Michael? Appreciate you coming. Mark Shuford. Mark? Mark's a long timer. He's been here 100 years, and we appreciate it.
Better than Jerry.
Thank you, sir. Matthew Mast. Matthew? And Dave Lavelle. Appreciate it. All right, I just wanted to mention the other names, the people that couldn't be here tonight: Ramir Harris, Patrick Seraphin, Ray Dixon, and Tina Wright. But I just want to say we really appreciate everything we do under the guise of Daniel and Nan, and we're very glad they came out tonight. Thanks.
Why aren't Daniel and Nan up there?
A little closer together.
Hey, Felicia,
Yes?
we should have Daniel and Nan join up too, flank them.
Yeah.
Okay, a little closer together now.
There we go.
Same area. You have to. All right, smile. Okay.
Hearing everybody clap reminds me of the first responders dinner we went to on Saturday, and Commissioner Long said something, but I think she meant it to be taken the other way. Because there was a lot of people that they're acknowledging all the elected officials, and she goes, "We really want you to only clap once." And I think she meant at the end of the dinner, at the end of the awards thing. So she started announcing everybody, and they would go, you know, Councilmember Saraki from Oldsmar.
Doug Beavis.
We went through the whole night like that. and
That is
It
hilarious.
just became funnier the longer it went on. So Commissioner Welsh, boom, yeah.
That's great.
I don't think she meant it that way, but that's the way we all took it, so. Anyway, thanks for everything you guys do. Where are we at? Next is the consent docket. Approve the minutes of the February 5th, 2019 City Council meeting. Approve the payment to legal counsel and approve the tentative agenda for the March 5th, 2019 meeting. If nobody wishes to pull anything, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes. Next is the City of Oldsmar. We should probably skip this one. Approve the reappointing of Quinn Trujillo. Oh, did I say it right? No, I screwed it up.
He messes everybody's name up. Don't worry about
I always screw her name up. Huh? Yeah, I got the Quinn part right, didn't I? Aaron Felton as the board members of the Code Enforcement Board. If you want to come up, come on up. Hello.
No.
Trujillo.
Yeah, the L's are
Trujillo.
like a.
What I said.
What?
That's what I said.
Yeah, oh, you and I are gonna fight after this. So we really thank you guys for coming tonight. It's a reappointment, so if you weren't able to make it, we would understand that. But code enforcement, probably one of the toughest boards that we have, because without a code enforcement person and a code enforcement board to hear those, our city could be in real bad shape. I know Tom has worked with other municipalities in code enforcement, and that's one of the backbones of the city is being able to enforce the codes that we have. And you know, we have fun up here, but I'm sure at the code enforcement, not
Serious stuff.
not always fun. It's quasi judicial, right? And you know, the things that you do, we can't even override them, can we?
No.
Yeah. So you have more power than we have. Don't let that go to your head. But anyway, so have you had any tough ones recently?
We haven't had that many this year.
What's, that's a
Bring
good
the
thing.
fire department throwing the junk cars.
Yeah, could you go check
before the-
violation for the fire department? That's funny.
Like the shirts. We didn't have shirts when we were on the
I
board.
decided to put mine on for tonight, yes.
Yeah, all the boards have them, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah. That's
I
not great.
did have a question regarding attendance, because, I think we started looking at the attendance rolls
Yeah, we
and
did.
going, here's the thing about the volunteer boards, having served on a couple myself, it was funny because I purposely served on it because I didn't really have the time to run for council. And then I realized I still didn't have the time most of the time. So, but I noticed, Aaron, that your work schedule, I'm guessing, has impacted your ability to attend meetings last year?
It did, yes.
Has it improved any? I mean, you think just to be able to attend them? Because I didn't see where you were able to make any of them.
I made one, I think. Well, the interesting that happened last year is because there were so few meetings, the months that I was available, there weren't meetings. And then the months that we actually had a case was the month I wasn't available. So had there been a meeting every month, I probably would have only missed 2 meetings. And since there wasn't, it just so happened that it was like, those were the 2 meetings.
The luck of the draw.
Absolutely, yes, because I do travel for work, but I do try to adjust it for those Thursdays. But I'm always playing a bit of like, do I cancel my travel and then the meeting's canceled? So that's where I'm at for that.
Yeah, because just a question. I mean, sometimes do we not know how far out in advance do they get canceled? Might not have enough time to.
A week or two.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I get it with your
Not
travel
enough
and all
time.
that, so.
Yeah, not a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
It was the same with the board adjustments a lot of times.
Yeah. And we look at that, I think, across the board, and not just the code enforcement, but a lot of the boards.
Yeah,
that,
no, all of them.
Yeah, and to see what the attendance is and things like that. So, and that's a very important board. So, anybody else have any questions?
I have seen a couple of the board meetings where I would have liked to have not been there on purpose. It's been pretty wild.
The one that I came to, I sat back there in the back corner, and Deputy Cacalo actually was here, and the person came in the door and came up and spoke. I do remember the issue, but it's not really relevant. And then as he left and he was walking by me, he patted his hip. And I looked at Cacalo and I said, she followed him out. I mean, you just don't know how mad these people are going to get. But
We just lost 2 volunteers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I realize you only have a couple meetings left, but some of us would like them to continue to serve.
yeah, I probably should have told that story.
Great story. Good story.
I probably should have said that after we voted, right?
When the deputy's not even here, you know.
Yeah.
Bad judgment on my part. You
Thank
still
you.
want to be on? Any motion?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you,
for coming
ladies.
tonight.
Thank you.
Next item is our city attorney.
I don't have anything tonight.
Thank you. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 6 is approve the co-sponsored special event application fee waiver request for the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life of North Pinellas event on April 12th, 2019. The American Cancer Society hosts this event at the Oldsmar Sports Complex as a fundraiser to support cancer research, education, advocacy, and patient services throughout the United States, including North Pinellas County. The event is free, open to the general public, and will take place on Friday, April 12th, 2019. It will consist of teams and individuals walking together around the fields of the complex in an effort to generate financial support for the cancer research and patient service efforts of the organization. The amount of the waiver request for this event is $700, and we've been longtime members, as the Chaffees have been so nice to recognize the council for, and we enthusiastically recommend approval.
Need a motion? Second? Any discussion on this item?
Nope.
Hope you get a great attendance and great weather. It's been kind of
Very much.
touchy.
Hope to see all of you out there. Thank you.
Thank you. So, all those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 7 is authorize the city manager to advertise 2019-008 RFQ, a call for artists, the Oldsmar Public Art Project for a commissioned piece of public art in the downtown area through the website Cafe, parentheses, it's also referred to as the callforentry.org, as a distribution method for the solicitation and approve selection committee for the public art piece. As you know, the City of Oldsmar budgeted $40,000 through the Art in Public Places in the budget for 18-19. The $40,000 is to be allocated for one piece of commissioned public art to be created by a professional public artist specifically for the downtown area. To select the artist in the proposed piece, it's recommended that we do a call of entry, which is a form of an RFQ, and it be issued through a highly regarded online platform called Cafe, as I mentioned before. Cafe is an established method of advertising the call of entry to the specific target market of professional, possible public artists. I'd recommend approval, but I'd ask Felicia if she has any comments or to answer any questions.
We have a time frame?
There was one in the docket.
Oh, I didn't, I was,
May
okay.
2019.
Sorry, I didn't
yeah.
see that.
May 21st.
Can we discuss or is just questions?
Well, we can discuss after the motion, I guess, but if you, do you have questions of her?
No, I was just making her available in case you had questions.
How much do we get from each building that's built in the city?
Percentage of the construction cost, isn't it?
1%?
Yeah, currently, that's what's in place right now, yeah. I think it's 1%
That's what it's
of
been for years.
capital.
And is that done by resolution? What is that done by? Ordinance, I mean, yeah, yeah.
An ordinance.
Okay, I think it's a great idea, and did I miss it? Do we, is part of this process gonna be to determine where it goes based on, I guess, what it is?
It is. So the downtown was selected because of the amount of art, $40,000 really gets you a pedestrian scaled piece of art. It doesn't get you a very large piece. And so downtown made a lot of sense to have something in the street right of way of downtown area somewhere so that it would be pedestrian interactive, so that for a smaller piece, you want people to be able to come up and interact with the piece in that environment.
Do we have any qualification? You know, we've done this before, and it's never really worked. In fact, some of the art was horrible.
And this,
And the places that are gonna,
Well, I think the process that she's going through is a much more professional process. I
I'm
mean,
sure- I'm
I
sure it
remember,
is.
and we had some good, it was the call to art from the USF students, and we had a bunch of donuts, I think we had, in one of the
It was pretty interesting.
one of the places they picked was Buckingham, St. Pete Drive, and
Yeah, and I think this is a much better process and more thought out, so.
allow the flexibility for the artists to choose. So there's a first round through Cafe. Cafe is the established method to solicit professional public artists. So there's a difference, right? And so you get all these qualifications. You have a selection committee that is composed of some sort of expertise in the field. They'll pick the qualifications, and then they'll ask the artist to come in with specific proposals, the top 3. I wanted to suggest that we leave it open because artists will suggest things you never thought of. When they look at something, they'll suggest exactly the right piece for the proposal in the right location.
Well, wait a minute. Who's choosing the place? Who's choosing where it goes?
The artist will select the place based on our criteria. The criteria that we established was downtown in the pedestrian environment. So not on the undeveloped properties that we own for future development. So that would be either at City Hall, in front of the council chambers here, State Street Center, within the street right-of-ways. We have so many bulb outs and extra little parcels that have, some of them have trees that could definitely be taken away and replaced with a piece of art there. And then it allows that interaction and the scale. Instead of choosing the location, I think that we'll get better responses if we let the artist choose where the piece will fit into the environment. I gave you all a couple examples from Asheville. So that's how that works. Asheville opened theirs up for that very saying, here's the kind of piece we want. Asheville happened to have the same exact budget we do, and it was just recently. So they did their call to artists. They selected the artist to come in for the proposal, and they got 3 very different pedestrian interactive pieces and different locations in Asheville.
And what participation does the council have in all of this, except, can it tonight?
So the council participates now, right? You're authorizing the advertisement for the art. The council participates by selecting these 6 members of the selection committee, and then the selection committee will bring the final piece back here for approval of a contract.
And who picks, do we have any choice in where it goes?
Well, the artist will make a recommendation of where they think it's designed all together.
It'll come to council.
It'll come to council for final approval of the contract.
So the committee will be the recommendation committee that will propose it to us and.
Correct, and so the committee is been selected or been proposed.
Yep.
A member of the North Pinellas Cultural Alliance, a design professional. So the member of the North Pinellas Cultural Alliance is Ken Hannon. The North Pinellas Cultural Alliance actually suggested him as their board meeting. And then John Buse would serve as a design professional, and Jorge Trujillo Mendoza is a professional fine artist from Oldsmar. He actually lives here. And then a member of Creative Pinellas is Christopher Hubbard, a member of the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, Jason Sanders, and then the city's art coordinator, Lisa Schmid. So the cafe also allows this, it's all digital now. So the artists will put up their quals, and you're at your own computer, you choose and rank them. And so through this process, I expect Asheville got about 60 applications. We'll get a lot of good applications, and they're already vetted through CAFE. This is what they do for solicitations of public art.
Okay, and the council has the final say.
Final say based on what the selection committee proposes. Yes.
Much cleaner process is through the cafe process, or is there a scoring mechanism? Is there any additional points for local artists? Do you control geographically the request, or could it be from anywhere?
We can. We didn't propose to put a local preference on it. We'll see what the art comes in. And I know that we do have a few in Pinellas County of fine local artists that will want to participate.
Is it just a simple ranking or however, or is there actual categories, or how is it?
So in the call to artists, we specify the things that we want: pedestrian scale, that we want it to be iconic, representative of Oldsmar. And then in the qualifications, you'll see a metal sculptor, and then maybe you'll see somebody who sculpts out of stone. And then you pick based on the qualifications and their resumes, which is extremely important. Having art in a public space requires that you have somebody who's experienced with things like building codes, right? We need that person to understand that it needs a wind load and that we have Florida building codes. So then we look at their resumes as well. So there's a bunch of criteria that it's judged on. and then they score them.
And just for clarification, and I think I know the answer to this, what they're putting up there is basically their portfolio and things like that. Not actually, will they put what they propose, or will they at least give a descriptive of what they propose?
No, because we don't want to ask the artist to go through a lot of work
Get that.
until the selection team will pick their final 3, and then we'll ask them to come back for proposals.
Okay.
And that involves where do you think it's going to go, what's it going to look like, and that's when all the really fine questions are asked.
Perfect.
Like, will somebody cut their finger on it, or will it withstand hurricane winds? What kind of steel? Are you using, commercial grade stainless that's not going to rust? And that's kind of where all those questions are. The process, I've been through this process personally, probably at least a handful of times, if not more. And the things that you'll see, you can't even imagine what an artist interpretation is, which is why I suggest that you let the process work for itself, because we're not fine artists. I don't look at things that way, and the things that they propose are just something I could never even have imagined.
And that's going to be a problem for the city council.
Why?
He has a hard time with the imaginative
Because I've
part.
seen a lot of crap.
I mean, I write
few
great art. I
questions.
mean, I write great poems, but I don't consider myself an artist.
Your homes are all
I have
political.
a few questions, Felicia. The pop-up temporary exhibits, so in the proposal for the main piece, does the artist also have to participate in those pop-up exhibits? Was that a key criteria? I couldn't. No. Okay.
That's so really the public art program that you have is outlined in the agenda package is really the comprehensive program. I think of it as in 4 parts.
Okay.
And really the other 3 aren't relevant to your item tonight. I
Okay.
just wanted to include the whole program
Looked
so
like
you
we
could
were
see.
maybe doing a call to artists for those as well. Will that be separate?
It's separate.
Okay.
So you have 4 pieces to that. You have the exhibits that already take place at City Hall. We have pop-up art, which is very trendy,
Yeah.
low budget. We're already working on some of those aspects. They're
ideas,
meant to last 3 to 6 months to give you interest. A permanent piece to start our collection for a commissioned piece of art. And then the last segment is the Pinellas, the Creative Pinellas. It's a $500,000, the BP oil money, the piece of art that we're going to host here.
Yeah.
So it's 4 separate things.
Okay. The only thing I would request, and I don't know if I saw it in there, but I know you've used the word a few times tonight, is that it be interactive. For me, spending $40,000 on a statue that nobody's going to drive over here to look at or touch and see unless they happen to be in our downtown that doesn't exist yet today would be a waste of time and money, I would think. But I just sent you an OWL link. There is I think Sulphur Springs is the city, but they got a $30,000 grant and are installing something probably from a call from an artist that's like a gramophone, and it's interactive where people can record stories for the community. And so those kinds of things that build the community and are interactive would be things that I would be behind 100%. So just want to share that feedback.
Yeah, we'll include that in the call that it's,
Interactive.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, would you like a motion?
I
for
would, and
discussion?
it's unfortunate that what happened in Sarasota on the death of the veteran for the end of the World War II statue, and what a
Yeah, I saw that.
what a sad thing that goes on, but look forward to it. So yes, I do need this is going to be 2 motions. One is the motion for the RFQ, and then the next motion will be to approve the committee selection for the project. So the first is the RFQ. I need a motion.
Like a motion to approve the RFQ as presented?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
And then the next motion is to approve the committee as provided.
I will make a motion to approve the committee as presented.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Discussion?
Any discussion? Yeah.
I do have one request. Is it possible
Hold on, hold
somewhere in
on.
between that we could get kind of an update on progress? That's all.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I'm really excited about this project. You and I met personally and talked about it. I think this is a great thing for our city to get started, and I almost would like to see it go on every year, maybe in the work session. What was it?
It's a budget issue.
Yeah, but something to add, maybe a small amount each year to continue the arts program. That's all I have, Mayor.
Can I ask this question? This is probably more of an Al question. This is just for, does it only apply to city building projects? The 1%?
city capital projects, but I think we've had some interpretation issues. Is it just leisure services related?
Capital improvements?
I think the ordinance says any, I think, doesn't it?
It's any new developments or anything in town.
No, it's city, this is city, and it's capital?
Impact fee.
I discussed that with the vice mayor today, and I need to go back and look at it, but I think we have had a few interpretation issues on it before. Maybe Tom knows.
Capital buildings?
It's buildings, it's not anything underground, so
Physical
like harbor
structures.
palms and the infrastructure,
For a
That's
fire
my
truck?
understanding as well.
correct.
And
I think it specifies that in the ordinance.
It's 1% of capital cost for physical
So it's
structures.
across the board.
For physical, my mistake was I thought it related to only
It should
leisure
be.
services.
Huh?
Across the board.
Yeah.
Well, it is, but the question was, the one that was an interpretation issue, which we cleaned up, was kind of a structure and kind of not. So that's where it got a little.
Regardless
strange.
of it, we added to it in the capital improvement budget process. anyway. So
And is there a process that, as part of, whether it's a private-public partnership, I'm thinking of the projects that we potentially have coming down the road, the property next door, the property by the library, that is not part of it, but is there an opportunity to make that part of the RFQ or whatever somebody would
Well,
submit?
that's up to us, and I think there should be.
Well, that's my question. But it's not part of this, and I mean,
Yeah.
I'm throwing that out
I had
there.
that concern with Al, because my fear was we go and we do this great art piece and we put it somewhere and then it limits us on the development for the downtown because, now we have to move it.
Well, that's
or-
why it's in the right, that's in the right of way,
Yeah, but
obviously.
it's just,
And we've moved art before, I know. Some of those good brass statues have been moved, but it is currently not part of any requirements for private development or private, that would be
I
interesting.
don't believe that's in the ordinance as it currently stands.
Is anybody familiar? I would assume that might
With
be.
for public building, for private buildings?
Or private, public,
Like
if it's a
adding impact.
partnership,
So there
especially in
has
the
been.
CRA.
Yeah, there has been success in communities of doing voluntary public art programs for private developers. There were communities that used to assess an impact fee on private developers in the state of Florida. It went to the Supreme Court. It became a takings. So the city's pulled away from that, but they are seeing through a voluntary program to help developers install elements of public art in their buildings.
We can make it part of a development agreement.
Yes.
That's fine. I think it would be great, especially in the CRA area, for them to, be a buy-in to, what
sure.
the city is working for.
I think you're walking on strange ground there to make them have
agree.
something, and I don't,
Huh?
It
She's saying it's-
translates to an impact
I would
fee if
rather
you do
have
that.
them have an impact fee that gives us, and let us
Well,
control
I don't
it.
care, however, however you shape it, it doesn't matter. I mean,
The 1%, anybody wants to develop a city, give 1%.
that's fine. I don't care how you word it. It's just the fact, similar to how you can do
But
it
I
in lieu
wouldn't-
of for sidewalks and stuff like
yeah,
that.
you're creating a community where builders and developers know that art and green space and those things are important to the community and it becomes kind of part of our culture.
Sure.
It would be interesting to see who's doing what along that
Yeah,
line to
for
get
sure.
some different ideas.
I don't think we should make somebody build a statue, 'cause, just,
Well,
No,
hey,
but-
I'm not
but you-
behind the statue.
I'm just
idea,
throwing
though.
the idea at a 30,000-foot view of
Yeah,
having
no.
people
in art,
to do it. Because you maybe don't want somebody putting what their interpretation of art is on a building. We would still want to control it, but they either have to, do it them with our approval, or they've got to contribute money to the fund to allow us to continue the art.
I can't find it. What I can do is because frankly, not on your code in the back. And so what I can do is I can research that and provide you with that tomorrow so that you have it. If I can't find it in the code this way.
And maybe what your interpretation is, because I wouldn't think it would be capital I think it would be structures. I mean, you wouldn't do it for a capital improvement for a fire truck that has a shelf life, I wouldn't think, or.
The issue has been in the past, when you receive the money, do you use it for operational maintenance purposes or not? And I think that the interpretation that we gave years ago was, let's not use more than 10% of it for the purposes of maintenance or operation, but at least 90% of it for the purposes of capital. And so that's probably where, I think where Al was going with that. But we can provide the research.
Okay.
you bet.
Sorry, I can't find it right now. so.
That's fine. So we have a motion and a second on the committee. Any other discussion on the committee?
Well, no, I am concerned about, because I've been involved with 3 of these.
That was pre-Felicia, though.
Yeah, I think this is a much cleaner process.
I have faith in Felicia.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we still get to, the council gets to approve it, so.
Well, we did a commission for somebody that is a good friend of mine for the Ford Presidential Library, and my beautiful wife and I had the bronze made, and it's in the Ford Presidential Library. And we also have done that, a piece of art for New England.
Okay. Well, I mean, I like this process. It's obviously the industry standard, you know, to use for art. She's done
Yeah.
multiple projects doing this process, so I have faith in her judgment, so.
And the mural turned out great at Ariel's, so.
Well, we're gonna have the final say, and see, each one of us is gonna have a different mindset, and that's gonna be a problem.
Well, that's a problem every meeting,
Yeah.
not just with
Well,
our.
I think we were, on one of them, on one of the attempts at it, I think we were all on the same conclusion that we don't like any of these,
Yeah,
so.
there could be that too.
See, that's what
There was
happened.
the opposite of that happened, and that was on the mural.
Yeah.
And we had multiple ones to choose from.
And we were like, oh, which
And
one?
first, right out of the gun, we all agreed on the same one.
That's what,
Yeah, that was
Bobby
good.
just said, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen. That's why we
Depends
all
on the
have different
artist.
opinions, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have a motion and a second on the committee as presented. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 8 is authorize the city manager to advertise 2019-006 ITB, which stands for Invitation to Bid, for the City Hall West parking lot renovation. West parking lot at City Hall is in disrepair and is in need of replacement. Cracks and gaps exist throughout the parking area. Will only worsen over time if not addressed. The project involves the demolition and removal of the existing concrete parking area and the installation of new concrete and road mesh reinforcement material. There is $50,000 available in this year's budget, the facilities capital budget, and there's another $50,000 for next year. Staff recommends approval.
Motion?
So moved.
Second? Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 9, waive bid requirements and approve the purchase of 3 replacement vehicles from Coggin Ford per the pricing, terms, and conditions of the Florida Sheriff's Association contract number FSA 18-VEH 16.0 on piggyback form 19-003B. This contract expires on September 30th of 2019. In accordance with the approved 2018-19 capital budget, the Parks Division, the Streets Division, and the Utilities Maintenance Division are all requesting replacement vehicles that have met the end of their useful life and are consistent with the replacement schedule that we set forth. The vehicles requested to be replaced at this time include numbers 253, 265, and 419 respectively. Funding for the replacement of these vehicles has been included in the fiscal year 18-19 capital budget, specifically Parks, Streets, and Utilities Maintenance. Coggin Ford has provided quotes for 3 Ford trucks, all F-350s, all within the approved budget for each replacement. The vehicle quotes per the piggyback contract are $35,883, $49,437, and $47,061 respectively. As we may have conversationally mentioned in the past, we're having difficulty in getting trucks ordered and delivered, so we're trying a little bit a different method there to do them in groups, hoping that we can get the orders fulfilled, but staff recommends approval.
Okay, need a motion?
So moved.
Second for discussion. Any questions on this?
Nope.
I guess I just have one question. I've asked this in the past. I know we tend to do a lot of piggybacking and using other contracts and things like that. Do we periodically vet them, for lack of a better term, as far as pricing goes? Not just specifically to this, but
No, my experience in my 30 years in this is that
bulk buying.
if you go straight bid, you have to know exactly the features you want in order to create the balance to the bid. In other words, if we were going to, a specific dealer around here for local preference, you'd have to go to 3 dealers around here, and they'd all have to bid the exact same features to the exact same vehicle, which would make it almost veritably impossible. So these group contracts, which are, largely categorical, are bid by state agencies, the sheriff, the NJPA, it tends to work better. But I think the demand now is generating so much activity in there, they're having trouble turning them around in what the entities think are an acceptable timeframe. So it's not without its challenges.
And I guess maybe not so much at a bid process where you solicit 3 different local vendors, but maybe the 20,000-foot view to say, you know, are these numbers in line with the industry standard for this type of vehicle?
Well, to that point, I would say absolutely, and I'll use NJPA. The vehicle the council authorized me to get was an 80% of MSRP, and you couldn't get anywhere close to that locally or anywhere else. The competitive nature of the contract itself is very good.
Okay.
Where you lose it is the bells and whistles, because you have to know you're comparing apples to apples.
Yeah,
But
I get that.
no, as far as the value we're getting on the contract, I think it's excellent.
I'm just curious. I mean, I've asked that before on other things, just to, you know, kind of the 30,000-foot view of, you know, the pricing is.
A good price.
As opposed to just taking it at their granted. I'm sure they do because they get it in bulk when they initially set up that contract.
Right,
So.
but in vehicles is where I think you have the biggest problem
Yep, okay.
for a straight bid.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 10 is, again, a request to council that waive bid requirements and award the purchase of a new ALS rescue unit to 10-8 Fire Equipment Incorporated under the same pricing terms and conditions as the Florida Sheriff's Association contract number FSA 18-VEF 13.0 on piggyback form 19-003C, which expires on March 31st of 2020 in the amount of $217,760.46. As council will remember, we conceptually approved the inclusion of $250,000 in the budget for the purchase of a rescue unit for this year. This is that purchase. The fire department, in their research efforts, assigned a committee of actual firefighters that did the homework on this and came back with a very competitive pricing on it. We're asking you to approve $217,000. There'll be about another $15,000 of equipment that needs to go in it. But I think they did a great job of getting the best bang for our buck, especially knowing that there was more money in the budget for this purchase. So we recommend approval.
Just for discussion purposes, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second, motion and a second. Are we approving the 217 or are we approving up to 250?
You're approving the 217. The other equipment won't be capital. We will follow our own purchasing policies in order to make those purchases, but because the rest of the equipment is not required to put the asset in service, and we're not buying it from 10-8. It'll be a separate purchase, but we will follow our purchasing policies for it.
Okay. And is the committee here, or would you like to acknowledge them? I think it's great that the committee researched the CIP and was able to do this.
We do
at a
have
savings.
one of them. The other one wasn't able to make it, and the other 2 are on the engine and the rescue tonight, so, and they were on a call.
Probably more important.
Yeah. But Alex Vidal, they went out and went and saw the vehicles in the county that people are using, looked through them, checked all the compartments, and put together this equipment list for what they felt would work for us.
So is it a combination of what they saw in the field, or is there one in particular that's the cat's meow?
I did not go with them, so I will let Alex speak.
We actually went down to Lellman Fire Rescue has some new ambulance that they've been putting in. We looked at all their lights, looked at all the compartments. We went to Penals Park. We also Clearwater. Yep, Clearwater. A lot of the compartments were looking for accessibility for turnout gear and medical gear, quick access, so we get on the scene and get to the patients quickly. So Lellman was pretty much our bread and butter of.
What would you say the biggest difference between what we're considering versus what we have now, other than age?
The new rescue that will be will be agreed on is our compartment doors will be right behind when we get out of the passenger seat. So when we get out of the seat, the compartment doors right now, we have to walk to the back of the rescue and get our gear out. So seconds can count lives. So.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you have the committee to do this because you guys are ultimately the ones that are going to be using it. So it needs to fit however you're style is or whatever it is. So I think it's,
And that's like, we like to include the firefighters that are gonna be on the units, running them.
you mean you don't want Al and I going out there saying, this one looks really
I
cool?
don't think, we need those compartments.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I was putting a big screen TV in there and lightning things on the side. of it.
Extrication equipment.
Well, thanks, really. I appreciate your guys' effort. And, we were talking about this today in general, sometimes we put things in budget and sometimes we're off low and sometimes we're off high. This is good that you guys did the research and, saved the city. It's ultimately the taxpayer dollars. So thanks, and pass that on to everybody else that was
I
part of
will,
that.
and they did a good job. They went through every compartment of what we had to determine what we could reuse, what we could move over, what we were gonna have to purchase to replace. So yes, they did a good job.
And we're leaving room for, in the case the county wants to add more equipment onto the rescue, so there'll be more space in the future.
Good, to accommodate. It's like a kitchen with a lot of cabinets, huh? I don't know where that came from. Anyway, awesome, thank you. Any other questions?
No.
No?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0, thank you. Anything else?
That's it, sir. Thank you.
Oh, look at this. City clerk.
All right. Item number 11, adopt resolution 2019-03, appointing members of the to canvassing board for the March 12, 2019 municipal election. At the last council meeting, council authorized or directed our city attorney to prepare the resolution appointing Doug Beavis, Eric Seidel, Dan Zarecki, Gabby Mickey, and Al Braithwaite to the canvassing board. I'll read the resolution by title only. Resolution 2019-03, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Oldsmar pursuant to Section 6.06 of the City Charter, appointing members to the canvassing board for the March 12, 2019 municipal election and providing for an effective date hereof. And staff says, let's do it.
Man, I see, I'm in there. I'm in here as part of it. I expire at 6 PM.
No, clear.
Golly.
Oh, dear.
I don't know if I like being part of a resolution like that. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second? Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0. Thank you. Next is City Council, schedule a work session to discuss the State Street and St. Petersburg Drive property. And the dates are, these are really important to me.
March 21st, 9, 1, or 4, or March 28th, 9, 1, or 4. And the purpose of this exercise was to try and get Francisco, whose entity we now have an MOU with, to make their presentation on the conceptual view of the project. In conversation with Francisco right now, the only date of these that he can make is March 28th, 9 a.m. And since obviously we might have a different dynamic for the candidates and their availability, my suggestion would be to see who can make this one, and if anybody can't make it, then we'll just postpone it, and we'll come back once the new council is set, and we'll try it again. I'm just trying to get something moving on that front, because now we have a 6-month clock ticking, so to speak.
Well, I mean, the new council will be set by this date, but we won't have confirmed if they can be part of that.
Well, 2 candidates are here. We could ask them if they would be available, unless Tom has a problem with that. I don't. I just wanted to get something going, and we don't obviously, in either one of these cases, it'll be after the election, so.
Well, you have 3 members that will for sure be part of the council. Why don't you guys
I'm
pick a date,
okay.
and then we'll see if the other people can accommodate it.
Well, right now, there's only one date to pick, if you want to hear the presentation. That would be March 28th at 9 a.m.
I'm not currently.
Say that again?
I said I'm not currently. It's like one of the few time slots that I'm not.
Yeah,
That's not to say that I couldn't try to go move it, but
yeah, I could. I told Aldo I'd have a hard stop around 11, which is
How long do you
tough.
anticipate?
Well, we
And are
never
you-
know how long.
I'm
it
not
might-
available.
I would say probably at least an hour and a half.
maybe as an alternative, since there is some challenge, that at the next meeting, come back with when else he's available and perhaps reach out to the candidates as well, so.
I will. Francisco responded, I had already set this up for you, and then Francisco, I asked him to weigh in, and he didn't give me an alternative for the second one, so I realized I was in trouble already, and
Well,
since the candidates might change it again.
I don't, he's presenting to us, it needs to be accommodating to our schedule. I'm sorry to say that, but I would tell him that at least 2 of the 3 existing candidates can't do the preferred date.
Yeah, I will. I mean, if you
Yeah.
want to table this, or I'll bring it back on March
Do you
5th.
have- do the 3 of you have a date that works better for all 3 of you that we could suggest?
I haven't looked at it.
I mean, I suggested maybe we try to do the morning of April 5th, since that was the alternative planning session date, which is only 1 week later, but it will be dependent on if Francisco's in town that week or.
Well, I think it makes sense, quite honestly, if we come back at the next meeting after we've had the opportunity to check with all the candidates as
Yeah.
well.
Okay.
Because it's gonna immediately put somebody,
Yeah.
at least one person for certain,
Then you
in
don't wanna
a
put them
position of
out.
not being able to attend.
That first, yeah. Okay, that's fine.
I'll bring it back.
Yep. And we're gonna reach out to all of the candidates?
Yes.
Okay. And council comments. We'll start with Councilmember Beaverland. Thank you for being who you are.
Officer.
Because you were robbed.
Apparently, Gabby said they had a huge call down by the flea market with a lot of
Right
squad
before I
cars.
got here, there was like 6 cop cars over there.
So that's probably where they are. Let me see if I got a text from, let
Thank you all for who you are.
me just see if.
Did you get anything?
What, right now?
Earlier.
Eddie is going to be late for council. They just had an emergency with one of our deputies, so
Oh, that sounds good.
that's what I had. So Eddie was still on, but, anyway, you're done? Yep. Councilmember McGee?
I have nothing, just hope everything's okay.
Yep, me too.
Thank you.
Councilmember Saraki?
Thank you, Mayor. Just got two things. You already brought up in the mayor's minute. The dinner Saturday night, I thought the presentations of the first responders, how they saved people's lives, and it was just very touching. It was a great dinner, and I really enjoyed that. And I really appreciate Janet Long and the Sheriff Bob Gualtieri taking care of that and being the hosts of that dinner. And Renee was there with her husband. And the last thing is, you also brought up the super party. I just want to say a short story. I lived in Vero Beach when I was a young lad, and my mother would make Lake Okeechobee soup. Well, a couple weeks ago, I found the recipe, and Paula's going to be making that soup at the super party for the Women's Club, and I'm looking forward to having that because I miss my mom. But come on out, for it's only $5 per person. There's 14 soups. We've got beef barley, cauliflower soup, and the Women's Club are going out of their way to make these homemade soups for the community. And I think it's gonna be a great event. And come on out and spend $5 and eat all the soup you can.
I hope that the name of that soup is in name only and it's not just Lake Okeechobee.
It's called Lake Okeechobee soup, but it's really good. It's very tasty.
I envision Paula just Brady clamping the
Salty, little gator.
No, the recipe is
depending on
from,
where you scoop the soup.
the recipe is from the 70s.
Wow, that's a long time ago. That was before Gabby was born.
Try not to eat it all before the party.
It was in the Vero Beach Gazette.
Nice.
They found it, 1972.
So is she making a pot for the banquet and then a pot for you to have at home?
I'm not gonna eat it until I get to State Street
Who
Center.
believes that?
So in other words, get there early.
Yeah.
That's it, Mayor.
And don't
Thank
get
you.
in what Dan's path. So, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a couple of things. Congratulations to Oldsmar Care on the gala. It was a terrific event, great, well-attended, and a lot of fun, and they raised a lot of money, so it was good to see. I just a comment, I also wanted to thank our sheriff's office. After we got some feedback about the golf carts, I think it was a good idea to put they put electronic sign up at the end of Lafayette, reminding people, you must be 16 years old and have a driver's license, a minimum of 16 to be able to drive. I thought it was a good way to kind of remind people that there are rules that apply to driving the golf carts. Little League.
And just to that point, and I don't know where we stand on this, but we had some dialogue after the council meeting that Deputy Cackalo was at, and I think they were gonna revisit it from the sheriff's department, because I think there were some discrepancies as to what kind of carts can do what, where in the city of Oldsmar, that there are some carts that are street approved that can drive down things like St. Pete Drive,
Like
whereas certain
LSVs,
carts
is that what
can't.
they're
Yeah,
called?
yeah, are you aware of that? I mean, I
am.
don't, huh?
I am. They're called low-speed vehicles. They're tagged as if they are licensed through TMV. They have to have certain features on them. If you possess one, you can traverse any road that has a speed limit of no more than 35 miles an hour. Golf carts, different story, has to be on designated streets. You have statutory limits. My understanding was you had to be 14 for a golf cart, but we'll double check on that. I don't know that the Arrow Board said one way or the other. So there are different rules, but essentially, if you have a low-speed vehicle, and there are a few, there are no restrictions other than the speed limit. You have to have a license, you have to have the features on it. As long as the road you're on is no higher than a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, you're good. So the restrictions really only apply to the golf course,
And
essentially.
I was told that, and Tom, you might be able to answer this, is that that's if you're driving down that particular road, like St. Pete Drive or whatever it is. But I was told also that you could do things if you could safely maneuver, that you could cross across Tampa Road. Like,
See,
let's
I
say
understood that you could because the speed limit on St. Pete, as long as you stayed on St. Pete or Forest Lakes, whichever road you're on, if it met that requirement, that you could cross over it. No?
That's what I heard.
You cannot cross a state road.
We heard that from David Gwynn personally.
Huh.
Is it Peter Gwynn? Did I get the name right?
Well,
The District 7 secretary, we met with him personally.
well, I think that's why Deputy Kakalo was gonna maybe look into it, because one of the deputies told somebody in Oldsmar that you could cross Tampa Road if the road that you're traveling on is 35, and you can keep up with the flow of traffic. So I'm not questioning.
About with a low-speed vehicle, not a
Yeah.
golf cart.
No, right,
No, we're
correct.
talking
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
low-speed vehicle, not a golf cart.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would think that would be correct.
Okay, and that you could cross.
The golf cart, you cannot.
No,
Obviously-
correct.
obviously,
And I guess my question to that is does our ordinance really
No.
address it to that?
Our ordinance doesn't address low-speed vehicles at all.
Nor should it. It's not a.
Doesn't have to.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean, it's
okay.
already addressed by the state.
I just think it's not real clear sometimes on what people can and cannot do. Not that our ordinance that needs to say that, but I don't know that they know what they can necessarily do or not do with their vehicle. So anyway, okay, I'm sorry.
Saturday, Little League opening day. Councilmember Bieberlin and I were out there, and it was a nice crowd. I will tell you, I felt the pressure with my shoulder and everything to throw the opening pitch. And I remember what a hard time I gave you last year, Mr. Mayor, when I got behind the plate and called your pitch a ball. And I'm here to tell you I crossed the plate, but it was a ball. So anyhow, it was good.
Is that a weak attempt at an apology to me?
Yeah, it was the best I got, Mr. Mayor. So.
Bounced twice.
Oh, that is not true. You couldn't even see that far. What are you talking about?
Did it really bounce twice?
No, three
it
times.
did not.
3 times.
I was a little nervous about it. I'm like, wow, I haven't thrown a baseball in I don't know how long.
Remember, we have an expert in the room at a Rays game,
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
and she threw a fireball for a strike.
I should have realized that.
you did. You should have had some consulting.
Well, I didn't know if I was going to be throwing it or not because I wasn't sure if you were going to be there. So.
Don't put it off on me. You
No,
text
I'm
me.
not.
Oh, you texted me before the thing and asked me if I was going to be there, and I said no. So you
That was
clearly knew.
pretty much on my way there, but that's okay. It's all right. Vice goes and does that. It's all good.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but they were very appreciative.
I apologize for not
of
being there.
Some of the consideration that we did for the Little League to help them this season, and so they wanted us to wanted to share that. Relay for Life. The firefighters got out. Was it called Boot Drive? So I stopped by there, but I just thought we should acknowledge their effort of going out and helping the team Oldsmar collect some money out on the out over at the flea market. And I didn't hear how much they collected, but
$569, I think it was.
how much?
$569.
$569. I know Ann was out there.
Well done.
And but there was a little rivalry going on with the firefighters and the Girl Scouts.
Oh.
Because they were undermining the whole effort out there.
Please tell me
So-
we're not making front page news.
Because they weren't
this.
giving
So,
away cookies.
I don't know, there was a little sabotage going on. I'll just leave it at that, but anyhow. Gator Nationals be a great weekend this weekend. If you've not been, please come. Just a reminder, we have a roast coming up for Mayor Beavis.
Please fill it out so he quits talking about it.
And it's going to be fun. If you'd like to be a roaster, reach out to me. And we have quite a few growing list of people who reached out. But certainly Al was the very first one to go on the list. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure it's going to be pleasant, Mr. Mayor.
Need an extra 20 minutes.
Do I get to approve this list, or do I?
Yeah, he's gonna come with papers.
The last thing I just wanted to mention for our citizens, and this is me speaking as an individual, not as a council member per se, but somebody who lives here. And this referendum that we have on the ballot, I couldn't tell you how much I support it. I think it's really important that we give our future councils those kinds of options. It doesn't set any guidelines in it. It just says, we'd like that to be an option for our council to use to attract new businesses and help existing businesses expand. And so what that looks like, if that actually came to be, who knows? It's not an open-ended, no ad valorem, as long as you're here in the city. I can't imagine anybody on the council would approve something like that. So, and sometimes people don't completely appreciate the significance of having that in your toolkit as a city. And there are others in a growing number of cities who are adding that type of toolkit. It is a referendum, so it requires our citizens to be aware of it and pass it. And the details of it, and that makes some people nervous that there's not details with it, but it's that way by design, so that you can be flexible and do the people's work and make good economic decisions on what kind of returns there are. So I just wanted to mention it personally, that I think it's a great idea, and I've been asked it as a council member, and we kind of try not to draw that distinction officially as a city, but I just wanted to give my 2 cents. That is all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Well, and tell me if I can't say this. Well, I'm going to say it, so you'll hear it, to tell me if I can't say it. But, I mean, I think we unanimously, as a council, approved the referendum going on the ballot, did we not?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's public. Is that correct? Okay. So, I mean, and I think in a lot of the boards that I've served on, do you really have to do things to give yourself, and I'm not talking about just locally, but, statewide and nationally, you've got to really do things to give yourself a competitive edge against other communities or states or whatever, whatever it might be. And I think your point about it being loose is it gives us flexibility, but it also gives us control to kind of work it the way it works best for the city and things like that. So I definitely hope that it passes. We leave it up to the voters, so if anybody has any questions, you can direct them to us, I guess. So, anything else?
That's all I got, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
I got nothing, really, because really, you guys really don't care if I have anything, because I only got one more meeting. So, no, I really don't have anything. We had some great events. I'm really, really looking forward to the Gator Nationals. Thank you to Chip and the staff for everything that they've done out there. I mean, they really, really put some time. I have been out there over the past couple of months. They completely tore up Straightaway 3. And it's a process to get it back to, the level that the professional riders and our local riders, it's important for it to work well for our local riders, but to be competitive against some of these other tracks throughout the country. We have a track that, that we're proud of, and that, we pride ourselves on being a first-rate facility. And I think the track is definitely reflective of that. Hopefully the feedback will be good. Have you heard any from anybody that's been out there, Chip?
Very positive.
Very
Everybody
good.
likes the new changes.
Huh?
Everybody likes the new changes. It changes it up a little bit, keeps it different.
Yeah, and some of it,
Well, actually, Saturday we had over 100 riders there. We did 29 motos, which is
Wow.
a lot, a whole lot.
Yeah, it was busy out there during the Little League.
Yes, yes. And then last night we had 88 riders for a practice night. Germany, Switzerland, all over the
yeah, I was telling Al this morning when I met with him for our 20-minute meeting that we had, that it was really neat. I came out to the track after showing some property. It was about a little after 7 o'clock, and it was really neat to stand against the fence. And when you look one direction, you've got the BMX track with the soccer fields all lit up and them playing out there. And then when you look the other direction, you've got the baseball fields, being utilized. I mean, it's a true sports complex out there. And again, if you could just share that with the staff, that they really did a good job, and looking forward to a great event. We're going to meet with them prior to the event, hopefully encourage them to continue to come back to the city of Oldsmar for this event, and hopefully maybe grow it. And because it is a UCI points event, there should be some powerful people there. And I think part of the changes is it was kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, but the changes that you make to the track is really kind of a balance. You have to make it competitive for the professionals that race out there, but you also have to make it accommodating to the young and the little that we want to be there every weekend. And I know part of it, the first straightaway when you came down the amateur hill, we were having some kids go, butt over tea kettle because they're not strong enough to hold their bikes up. And so they were, crashing on the first turn. So we had to take some of that out. And I think they took one of the tables out for the pro riders on the track. I think they did. And so,
Correct.
yeah, and then
They added the tables the first jump there where the kids were
launching. Yeah. And then I think on straightaway 3, there was quite a discrepancy between the top of one of the hills and the bottom. And it was really beating them up, wearing them out by the time they got. I mean, I know Al and I were really tired by the time we crossed the finish lane. Yeah.
Was that during our race? Because you apparently really were tired.
Yeah, you guys were all really tired that day.
I don't even want to get back into this discussion.
Yeah, just because you won.
Just because you had bigger wheels on your bike than we did.
Yeah, you cheated.
Yeah.
I guarantee if we had a rematch, I'd still win.
I don't think so.
Yeah, well, because we haven't gotten any younger. I'm just saying, that hasn't really changed, okay?
If we rematched, I am not standing next to Dan. He almost
Right.
fell over and knocked us all over like
Just so you
dominoes.
know, I'm riding my own bike next time.
Oh, the three-wheeler?
I couldn't even, yeah, right. I couldn't even sit on that.
It wouldn't be a meeting if I didn't take a shot at you, Dan. I got nothing else. Anybody else got anything? All right. We're adjourned.